Hi everyone, welcome to the Fire Mountain Gems and Beads jewelry making studio. My name is Rose, and I heard that you have an interest in joining our jewelry making party and becoming a jewelry maker. I know you watched some of the videos, you saw how easy it is. I know you can do it. And then you watch the presenters pick up a pair of pliers, and another pair of pliers, and another pair of pliers, and pliers, there's so many. And it's kind of overwhelming. You want to get your tools, you want to get your beads, but which pliers do you get? That's the hard part. There's so many. Let me help you on this jewelry journey. Let me help you make the right decisions and ignore the chaff. There's just so much out there. I want to give you the real primary things that you're going to need. First thing is you can do it the easy way and get yourself a nice kit like this. Cool, groovy. It's got the pliers you need. This is a really nice kit. I like this one a lot. Or you can buy them separately. That's fine too. This kit is missing one very important plier. The very first pair of pliers I ever bought, and that is the crimping pliers. These are used to flatten a crimp. You could flatten them just with a pair of flat nose pliers, but crimping pliers just make a much more, a stronger and more professional finish. For instance, this necklace right here, it's just simple stringing, and on the end, it has been crimped with a crimp bead. Unfortunately, you can't see the crimp because we then covered it with a crimp cover, which makes it even look more professional. This is what they look like without that crimp cover on it. And a crimping plier is what made this possible. It folded it and bent it in half to make this super, super, super secure hold. Best way to end this type of beading wire. Making a knot is really not practical. So, crimping pliers when you're using beading wire, and that's what it looks like. Cool and groovy, and those usually are not in a kit, so you will have to buy those separately. They all do basically the same thing, so don't worry that you have to get the top of the line or the bottom of the line. Just pick some out that have a comfortable handle for your hands. That's all. Pick out a pair of crimping pliers. Essential if you're doing any stringing. Next, flat nose pliers. Flat nose pliers are for gripping and bending wire. So, for instance, if I want to make a bend in a head pin like that, that's what these pliers are for. Also, for gripping, they're great for like jump rings, to get a good grip on that baby, so you can grab your other pair of pliers and twist them open. Jump rings, for those of you that have been watching the videos, are always twisted open, not pulled open. Okay. So those are flat nose pliers. They're great for gripping, and they are great for bending. Next, chain nose pliers. These are a lot like the flat nose pliers, but they have a different profile. Rather than being rectangular on the ends as these are. Oh, look, I got a good picture of that. Rectangular on the end. They have a sort of a half semicircular sort of end on them. There, I think I got a good picture of that. And they're much, much narrower at the end. And that's because they're also for gripping, but they're not as good at gripping as the flat nose pliers because they have such a small surface area. So they're not great for gripping, but they can. And the nice thing about them is that tapered end allows you to get into tiny little tight spaces. So that's really cool. Very important. But like when you're going to open a jump ring, because they don't have much gripping surface, there's a really good chance of your jump ring just rotating on you and not working right. So flat nose is better for gripping. These are great for getting into tight spaces and for bending. Aha. But from those two comes my personal favorite, bent chain nose pliers. These are definitely my favorite because I use them for both gripping, bending, and getting into tight spaces. So obviously it has a little tiny nose on it, so it doesn't grip very well on the tip here, but it does get into tight spaces. It even gets around corners. Cool, I love these. They're bent chain nose or just called bent nose pliers sometimes. And then like I say, it doesn't grip very well because it doesn't have much surface area to grip with. So when I want to grip something with these, I turn them upside down and I grip with the bent part, and then I have a lot of surface area gripping my jump ring or whatever. So honestly, these are my plier of choice instead of the chain nose or the flat nose, and it works for both of these pliers. So these are great. That might be your preference because that's your preference, and that's okay. But this is my favorite right here, bent chain nose. Keep those in mind. And then, of course, an essential plier, and I am just hitting the essentials. There's lots of other ones, but I'm hitting the essentials. Round nose pliers. This is what makes your loops. So for instance, like on these earrings here, beautiful earrings. But look at this. Every one of these beads has 2 loops on it. There's a loop on the end of one bead and a loop here, and then they're joined together by all these loops. And these loops were created with round nose pliers. In fact, they work all together. When I'm making all the loops for this fabulous earring, I would make a bend with my chain nose pliers, and then I will use my round nose pliers to make the round loop. These are not good for gripping. And the reason is because there's so very little surface area that's going to come in contact with your wire or your metal. That tiny bit of surface area coming in contact with your metal, that is almost certain to make a tool mark. Maybe you don't care about tool marks, but my jewelry gets zoomed in 400%, so I try and avoid tool marks. If you go on our gallery of designs at Fire Mountain Gems, you'll see lots of tool marks when you zoom in on those things. It's okay. When you're wearing the earrings, no one will know. Okay, round nose pliers. And then the next step to these loops is a good pair of nippers or wire cutters or whatever you want to call them. I call them nippers because the ones we're using here, they're a wedge-shaped flush cutter. Let's see if I can get a good image of that. Wedge-shaped. So the jaws are wedge-shaped so that on this side, you get a flush cut. So the wire you cut on with this side will be smooth and flat. On this side, it's going to have a little bit of a wedge shape to the wire. And that's the piece of wire you throw away. This is the side of the wire you keep, the one that made a flush cut. So after we made that loop, usually there's a little bit of wire left you got to get rid of, and that's what the nippers are for. They get in there and they get that tiny little piece out. So you need the wedge-shaped flush cutters, you need a tiny tip on the end, and they need to be sharp. So these pliers, your nippers, your cutters, this is the one pair of pliers I think you really should invest some money in. Really go ahead and get the good ones because it's nothing more frustrating than trying to cut a piece of wire and it won't cut. So get some good flush cutters. And we have lots of them at Fire Mountain Gems. We've got the Tronics, are a beautiful pair. We've got my beautiful Lindstroms, they're beautiful. And once you spend some money on all of your tools, all your beautiful tools, be careful how you use them. I would never, ever, ever cut stainless steel or memory wire with these really beautiful nippers. You want to use your softer wires like that head pin I had here. This is a 21 gauge brass head pin. That's great. I cut those all day, every day, no problem. Great, groovy. But avoid stainless steel, avoid memory wire with your really good tools. Get those old nasty tools out of your spouse's toolbox instead. Or memory wire, you're gonna want memory wire shears. But that's a specialty tool. We're not talking specialty tools, we're talking about the basics. And also all of these tools, like for instance the round nose pliers, they have a tapered end to them. And that means I can make loops of all different sizes, tiny, 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 tiny ones, or big fat loops, wherever I make the loop on the plier. But remember, the more narrow the tip, the more quickly that plier is going to wear out. They do wear out. You're going to make lots of jewelry, I hope, and you'll need to wear out several pairs of pliers in your jewelry lifetime. It'll be wonderful. So think about that. How fragile you want your tool or how useful you want your tool. Get a balance between the two. So I like mine really fine tipped. There you go. Those are the six most important pliers you really should think about. Now there's tons more. Oh my goodness, I just love these wubbers. There's great, oh my goodness, they're heavy too when you get them all together. With these super duper mandrel pliers that make different shaped loops, and there's easy looper pliers, and there's rosary pliers, and there's pliers I never even heard of and don't even know what they do. Banding pliers, craziness. Don't worry about those. Keep it simple. Go into your Zen space, nice and easy. Think of those 6 basic pliers, or even less. I'll show you my toolkit. This is my toolkit from my workspace here at Fire Mountain Gems, and this is my basic tools. This is what I like to have. I have 2 pairs of bent chain nose. I don't use flat nose, I don't use chain nose, I only use my bent chain nose. 2 pairs of bent chain nose, 1 nice pair of round nose with a nice tiny tip on the end of them so that I can make tiny loops. Sometimes I use another pair because these don't actually get as big as I like, so sometimes I use a different pair. My crimping pliers, which as I say, I carry those. That was the first pair I ever bought. And my really nice nippers. These tools do 95% of the work I have at Fire Mountain Gems. Yes, I use lots of other pliers now and then, but these are the basics. Don't let yourself get overwhelmed by all the products out there. There's so many. I understand that. So think of these 6, and thanks for joining me. And I hope you love this world of beading. I do. Happy beading.